Hi, welcome back to Retirement Redefined. I'm your host, Carlson, and I'm with Brad Gotto. And today we're going to do something a little different. We talk a lot on the show about planning for retirement, for your future, for your family and taxes. But today we're going to talk about something that sits at the heart of all of that: vision. What does it mean to have an entrepreneurial vision? And how does that shape not just your business, but your life?
And to dig into that, we're going to be joined by someone who lives this out every single day, Derek Swedberg. Derek's a leader. He's an entrepreneur. He's a dad. He's also the founder of PAC Wealth. His story is very powerful, and it's one that really shows how purpose and legacy can drive really everything that you do. PAC has become known for helping families bring clarity and coordination to their financial lives, not just managing money, but building something different that lasts and reflects their values all at the same time. So Derek, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm not sure who canceled, but it's a real pleasure to be here with you guys.
That was a huge introduction. So I expect a lot out of you in this episode. And I have to tell the listeners right up front, anytime Derek and I are together, I feel like a lot of disclaimers need to be thrown out. One of which is not only you're a guest on the podcast and everything I said about you, I believe to be true. You're one of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, but we're also really good friends. And we both speak sarcasm. And aren't maybe to the listeners are not going to sound very nice to each other, but it's all in love.
It is our love language for sure. So
we'll get to the business stuff, but before we get to the business stuff and kind of what you've done and kind of how you've created that, especially as we talk through vision in this episode, I just want the listeners to know who you are personally, and so we'll just start very simple. Other than being an entrepreneur, who is Derek Swedberg?
Well, 40-year-old short bald guy. So thank you for the Fiat hat. Fits perfectly. I'm a husband. I am a father of 4 children. I have twins and then 2 younger ones, all who cause the equal amount of trouble. And I'm definitely a passionate business person. And so it's a great honor for me to be here and talk with you guys today. I think it's going to be very enjoyable.
I know your kids very well because, again, friends. We both live in the wonderful town of Delano, huge
Amen.
Metropolis, west of the Twin Cities. Tell the listeners how we met, because I think it's an interesting story.
Well, I'll try to make it quick, but Brad and I were attending the same church. We did not know each other, but we both knew the pastor. We had conversations after church. We had exchanged emails. And so at a certain time, my wife and I thought it would be appropriate to invite the pastor and his wife over to our house for dinner. So I sent him an email and invited him over, and they were very excited. They said, yeah, we'll be there. And so the night came and the doorbell rang. I went to the door and I opened it, and he was standing there, and he looked very surprised and a bit disappointed. I found out later that he thought I was Brad Gotto and Brad Gotto was Derek Swedberg. So when he got to Derek Swedberg's house, the man he found waiting was not what he had been hoping for. So we ended up having a great night, and he introduced us after that because we both had similar backgrounds in financial services and had kids the same age. And it has been a fantastic journey ever since. But it was a bit awkward to get going with the pastor.
It's one of the... we love our pastor. We love to give him a hard time as well. But one of the things he was actually right about, you're not a half bad guy. We became really good friends. Live life together, been on a lot of vacations together because of our wives. Wives are friends, kids are friends, all the things. But outside of that, one of the things that you and I connected on right away wasn't just kind of a personal life, kind of core belief structures, that kind of stuff. It was on the business side of the world. You and I were both trying to do meaningful things obviously in a very similar business at the time. And so connected on that. But with that being said, and I know you better than Carly does, but that's where I want to start, because you have a drive from a business perspective that is, from all the people I've met in my life, second to none. And I've admired it since the day I met you. And so one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast was simply to share that drive with other people and how the vision that you have for your life and your why has a lot to do with that. And so whether you're an entrepreneur or not, I would encourage you to continue to listen, because at the end of the day, we're all seeking things in life. And that may be something like starting a business or running a business, or it could be something as simple as being a better father, better grandparent, or be more purpose-driven in your retirement, or whatever it may be. When you live a values-based driven life, that can be any of these people that I described before. So with that being said, let's start with your why, because I know you're a driven guy. I know that being an entrepreneur is important to you, but that came from somewhere. And so what do you kind of point back to?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of different things, as you know, when you're growing up that shape the way that you believe and you act. And I could go a few different directions with this. I have always just been competitive, and I don't know if that was natural, if that was genetic, but I certainly, it could just stem from the fact that I always had to work harder than everybody else because I had short legs. And so to catch them, you had to go. But from a young age, I was definitely competitive, loved sports. I wasn't so competitive at school. I was happy to be average there, but in the areas that
it's another area that we connected on.
Yeah,
I was a happy C student.
I was driven. I grew up, and this is a little bit of my background in the financial services, so I might as well share it right now, anyways. But my grandpa was a business owner, and so I grew up with him picking me up and taking him to the shop. He had a construction company, and I got to watch him work and build things and employ people. And that was very motivating for me. And he set up a few different things throughout my childhood that would align my incentives to think like a business person. I mean, for instance, when I was, 12 years old, he took like $10,000 and put it in a Fidelity account at that time. And that was just when, we were starting to get the internet in our parents' basement. So I was dialing up on AOL to learn about income statements and balance sheets. Because what he said was, when you learn about this, I'll let you make your own decisions. And for a 12-year-old with $10,000 out in Howard Lake, Minnesota, that's a lot of Schwinn bikes or Donruss baseball cards you could buy. I was very motivated to learn about that. But that was intentional by my grandpa. And the same thing would happen when we'd go to his office. If I'd sweep out the shop, then he'd take me to get ice cream later. He was building a work ethic. He was building a thought process in me. And so that was where I got kind of my initial love for business, and then became very entrepreneurial. That, and I realized that no one probably would ever hire me, so I had to create my own businesses. And so that got me kickstarted. And in high school, I mowed lawns, and I had a painting company, and I started to realize, well, I can advertise and I can charge $20 an hour. And I got these 5 moron buddies over here who will do the work for $10 an hour, and I can make money that way. And so that was where the entrepreneurial journey started. And then actually, just to take that full circle, Brad, we can come back to it later if you want to, but my grandpa taught me a lot about investments, tax, insurance. He wanted me to come in and take over his business someday. I was his oldest grandchild, and we had spent the most time together, but I was too stubborn to do that. So that was not the direction I went, but he taught me a lot about business. And I knew that he had very good advisors around him, attorneys, accountants, bankers, things like that. And when I was in college, my dad showed up at the door one day, which was not typical of him. So I knew something wasn't good. And he had told me, Grandpa died today. My grandpa was 88 years old. He was riding his bike in between his office and his house, and he got hit by a car. Died on impact, which I'm sure all of you are going, oh, that's terrible, which it was. But if you're 88, you can still ride a bike. You're still adding value at the office. You live the full life. Yeah. My grandpa was a great man and provided a lot of value. And yes, it was a hard way for him to go, but again, a pretty complete life. But what was interesting about that was, as his estate was unwound, we saw issues that very much surprised me. There was some cash flow issues, some estate tax that got paid that wasn't necessary to be paid. And I was kind of confused at the time, because he had taught me about this, and I knew about, he had good accountants and good attorneys and good investment people, like I said. And so I was like, well, what is going on here? And it turned out he did, but all those people were kind of operating in their own silo. And so he bought a new house. The attorney didn't follow him there to have him title it in the trust. He was making donations to his donor advised fund, but his investment people weren't making sure that it was his highest appreciated stock. There was just a bunch of little things like that were getting tied together. So that was sort of my aha moment where I was like, well, geez, if a guy like my grandpa doesn't have everything together, who else doesn't? And I found out later that almost every entrepreneur doesn't, because they're busy building their businesses. And so that was kind of my entry into the financial services world, to help people like my grandpa, so that he, had he found out he paid extra tax after he was gone, he wouldn't have been. So I'm trying to prevent that for other people.
Gosh, I think that what you shared is really interesting on lots of levels. I mean, first, what a blessing that you have a grandpa that passed down like wisdom and a way of thinking, right? We can inherit lots of things, and some of them are not monetary. And so I think it's really beautiful that you got to receive kind of a different way of thinking that not all parents or grandparents teach their grandkids or their kids. So I think that's really cool. And then that comment that you said at the end of like everyone working in silos, I have seen that so much across my career. It's like everyone has these great plans, but they're not talking to each other, and that collaboration being lost makes some of the plans maybe not invalid, but less valuable than they would otherwise be. So, what a meaningful and maybe really intense way to learn that lesson.
So picking up from there, you're in college. This happens. You're obviously, we now know you're in financial services today, but there's a wide gap between college and now self-admittedly 40 years old. So what's kind of the story of post-college? How in the world did you get into financial services? And then at what point kind of in that journey was the vision for PAC born?
Yeah, there was a lot of steps in there. I had done a bunch of things in college. I was involved in real estate and had started a couple other businesses. But eventually I had done an internship during college at one of a financial services firm that everyone would know, but was more rooted in insurance. And so
pretty vague on that one.
Yeah. My experience wasn't great, because it was like, hey, if you want to be successful in this business, call all your parents' friends, who, by the way, my parents' friends didn't have any money, but call all of them and see if you can sell them something they don't need. That just didn't seem great to me. I didn't really know that there was a whole another world, at that time that was available to people if you did the wealth management, financial planning thing correctly. But I did get introduced to some people in the business through an accountant later on, and saw that there was a whole another side to this, a side where I could actually implement the other side of my grandpa's story and help people in a meaningful way. So I did. I started at a big national firm that other people would know. I'm not sure if we're supposed to say names on podcasts or not. I started, it was Dane Rauscher back in the day. It's now called RBC Wealth Management. They were U.S. operations were based here, which was great for me. I learned a ton from a lot of awesome people in that business. But I started chasing around people like my grandpa and not pretending we knew what the stock market was going to do the next day. There is still a lot of people in this world who like to do that. If Brad or me or Carly or anybody else could crush the market picking stocks, I assure you we would not be on this podcast. We'd be sitting on a yacht in the Caribbean trading stocks on E-Trade. So easy a baby can do it, or whatever they say on those commercials. But there is real value in being that family CFO and coordinating everything and tying it all together. And I started to figure that out. Now, it took me a while to get anybody to talk to me, because I did have a full set of hair at that point. I was in my early 20s. No one is giving their money who has a brain to somebody in their early 20s who's never managed anybody's money. So it took a while, but I built some pretty good relationships. I did some unique marketing that I can't say, because those RBC compliance people would be calling me now that I said that name out loud. But I was able to build some relationships over time with entrepreneurs, and which was fun for me, because those are the people I wanted to hang around with anyways, because those were the people that reminded me of my grandpa. And I got a great lesson in business by being around great business leaders. And so over time, I figured out that I really wanted to provide this comprehensive family office type service to people and their families. And then I also my entrepreneurial nature continued, and I wanted to create opportunities for them to continue to invest in ways outside of our typical stock market portfolios.
So through your time at RBC and hanging out with them, it's slowly but surely kind of this vision of like, if I could do this differently, or if I could add even more value, it would be taking these already successful people and giving them more opportunity to do the things they love, which isn't your traditional, I want to quit work. I want to, golf every day. These are highly driven, highly motivated entrepreneurs that actually, that is their hobby, so to speak, is building businesses. And so kind of lean into that and kind of hone in on that vision of how that kind of created this idea for PAC. And then, and when did it start?
Yeah, so you're nailing it, right? Similarities don't sell, differences do. And if you're just calling someone and say, I'm going to, manage your money better than this guy is, or I got this mutual fund that they don't have, like, that just isn't going to work over time. So you have to find a way to separate yourself. Early on, I did that through, like I said, some pretty strange marketing campaigns that would get people's attention, and they'd either decide, hey, I got to talk to this guy, or I got to get a restraining order, one or the other. And so it was fun though, because I could start to see that we had this clientele that we were building that really appreciated our services because we were saving them the one thing they couldn't buy, which was time. These were very successful entrepreneurs, corporate executives. And so building that system that saved that, and then having a single point of contact. And then that's the case for a lot of times, Brad, as you know, with entrepreneurs. A lot of times they have a spouse who takes care of the home and the kids, but doesn't know a lot about the money. And of course, we try to engage them and get them involved. But really, that entrepreneur wants to know if for some reason they ever get hit by the bus, their spouse has one call to make, somebody who understands the entire picture. And that gives them a great feeling of security. Yeah. So those were the two things that we were trying to do: save them the one thing they can't buy and have one place to call. And then throughout that process, you get to know people really, really well. And I figured out what our people wanted to do was, as you said, I mean, it's a great way to put it, like, business is kind of their hobby. A lot of our people have houses in Florida or Arizona or whatever. And I've told Brad this a bunch of times, but I know when they've been there for more than 2 or 3 days, because my phone starts blowing up, they're bored. They don't sit on the beach for long. They can golf, but not for too long. And they like to do business. And so I saw this opportunity to combine the capital, the skill sets, and the relationships of that group and go out and do what they have fun doing. And that's acquiring and growing businesses. And that was kind of the genesis of PAC. I had started making informal introduction years ago between people that I knew could work together. And it was kind of interesting because, all the business owners listening to this podcast know that it's lonely at the top. From the outside, a lot of people are like, wow, it's good to be that guy. Look at him. Look at how much money he got. Look at his new car. And it's like, they have no idea the sleepless nights and the emails at 6 a.m. and the phone calls at midnight. And it is stressful and it's lonely. Yeah. And I saw that with these people. And then when I started connecting them, I saw they were meeting people who understood what they were dealing with. And then when they understood what they were dealing with, they're like, hey, it'd be kind of fun to be on a team with you. And so we slowly started doing that. But that was when I started to see, wait a second, if I can hook up the right personalities with the right backgrounds, we can go out and be really effective dividing and conquering on business in spaces where they added value. A lot of the people we're talking about look like me, so we don't go out and buy hair salons or anything like that. But they, where they know their space, it's fun for them to all of a sudden be on a team. So I always say we took what was kind of a bunch of lone wolves, and we put them together in a pack. And so that's the evolution of that. That's where it came, because I saw it's not a need, but it's a desire of theirs to have something to be a part of and to continue to grow businesses. And that was part of the genesis behind PAC.
So how do you, like, as a entrepreneur yourself, obviously now you walked away from kind of the big firm, started PAC, and I know you didn't get into the time frame of it, but it was about 5 years ago, almost.
That's correct.
Exactly. I think October of 2020. Am I right?
Yes. Good memory. Right?
I feel like I just put you on the spot, like with your anniversary in front of your wife. And you're like, so about 5 years ago, so walked away from the big firm. We can see you kind of lay it out for us how that vision came into being. But then we talk about this all the time. Ideas are not worth a lot. So it's a great idea. But then the execution of what you're talking about over the last 5 years and what you've been able to do, talk to us a little bit about that, of how do you take an idea as a visionary and building a vision for something. One of the things that stops most people, Derek, is like they don't know the next right step. And so they take no step. And so do you have any advice for people when they're trying to build a vision for any area of their life, whether it's business or otherwise, just kind of how do you make decisions to move things forward? Because again, what you've accomplished, we don't need to get into the numbers and all that stuff because this is a podcast and that's personal, but I'll just tell the listeners, and you've done very well over the last 5 years relative to building something. Like you've built something amazing in a 5-year time frame that most people I think would be very proud of if they did it over their entire career. But the only way that happens is by having a vision that you know that you can act upon. And so it's just really hard to go from an idea to something practical. So give us some advice there, or a step or two that you took that was meaningful. And then maybe if you're willing to, a mistake or two that you've made that you would tell listeners, these are some of the things that if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't do.
Oh, well, if you only talk about the mistakes, this podcast is probably not long enough. So remind me about that and I'll at least tell you one. But in terms of, vision clearly is very important no matter what you're doing. I mean, you want vision for your family, you want vision for your church, you want vision for your business. And the more entrepreneurial can you say that word, Brad, for me? For the listeners?
Entrepreneurial?
There we go. The more of that you are,
it's a lot of R's in that word. Yeah.
the less clear the roadmap is.
Yeah.
And so you certainly have to be uncomfortable with, or you have to be comfortable with uncertainty, I guess is the way to put that. I can't remember who it was, Elon Musk or somebody said that being an entrepreneur is like staring off into the abyss, eating glass. Yeah.
Wow, that just makes me want to run out and be an entrepreneur.
Who's in with me? Let's go. But yes, when the other thing that I know about anything in life is the better your teammates, the more likely your success is. And as long as I'm going to be quoting people, I think it was Steve Jobs. If it wasn't him, you should take credit for this.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically the same person.
Yeah. So he said something like, the difference between an idea that goes to zero and an idea that goes to 1 billion is the first 10 hires. Like, can you get the right people on the boat right out of the gate? And the cool thing for me was I already had these built-in relationships. I had been working side by side with these, incredibly talented entrepreneurs for a long time. So I had a vision that if we did combine the skill sets, the capital, and the relationships, that we could be a really soft landing spot for businesses, or we could help young entrepreneurs start companies, all while we were doing the wealth management side, right? All while we were still managing the family finances. And so that was the vision from the get-go. And then the other thing was, I know that people like that have a million different options. So we had to create something that they wanted to be a part of, because they didn't need to make any more money. They certainly didn't need to do any more work. You had to create an environment where they were opting in. And when people opt in, they tend to do better anyways. So my vision was to create that platform that they could continue to exercise those skills, even if they sold their own business someday. And that's one of the biggest fears of people is, if I sell my business, what am I going to do? Yeah. And we eliminated that worry for people, where they could partner and not feel all the burden on their shoulders. That was really the vision at the end of the day. I wanted to create a unique platform where our people could continue to add value in the business world at the rate that they wanted. Yeah. And it's played out that way. Now, it's never a straight line, but
although you would like it to be, it's like literally in your logo.
We can get into that on another podcast, but yes, you certainly.
I don't know how many times you think I'm going to invite you back here, but
well, never mind. Anyways, And in terms of mistakes, oh yeah, like they're all over the place, right? And one of our actual fifth core value is growing humility. And the reason for that is when you're successful, it's very easy to become a know-it-all. It's very easy to think, oh, well, I did this, so I can also do that. And a lot of times you can't. As a matter of fact, your skill set in one area might inhibit you in another area. So you, rather than being a know-it-all, you need to be a learn-it-all. And we have had situations where we have stepped out over our skis because we thought we could handle something that we really didn't have experience in. And that has, you touch the stove a bit. But as long as you learn in any business, then it's not, you don't want to waste those learning moments. And so if anybody tells you they haven't had mistakes or they haven't bumped their head along the way, then they're lying or they're part of a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. Well, I feel like too, when you have the capacity to approach things with humility and learn from your mistakes, instead of something being like so wrong that it's a complete 180, a lot of times it's just like readjustments, right? It's like slight pivots that then put you back in the right direction of the way you needed to head. I really like the saying, fail fast next. Like, it's all right. The mistake itself is fine. It's the learning from it and then pivoting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit more personal, because this is the business side, and obviously you found a lot of success there. When it comes to personal life and this drive that you have as an entrepreneur to build things and to live a meaningful life, what does that mean to you personally? How do you take that home? What kind of drives you just in life in general, just outside of business? Like what are kind of some of the key things that keep pushing you forward?
Yeah, this is an easy answer for me. My faith is the major driver in my life. And maybe I don't need to make this an evangelical podcast right now, but I did, I had the grandpa who was a business owner and I had a dad who was a pastor. So on one hand, I had the guy who was trying to help everybody. And on the other hand, I had the guy who was swearing at everybody. So it was a good mix growing up. But that,
to be clear, the pastor was swearing and your grandpa was helping everybody. Right?
I figured your listeners would put that together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that grounding in faith from my mom and dad, who were wonderful parents growing up, was key. And I got to see firsthand that a life spent looking to serve and be generous was a more fulfilling life than the opposite. And the Bible is very clear about that too, and the Bible is true. So that's how I want to live my life. And so the idea of building a business is, one, I really, really enjoy it. That is fun. But two, it creates more opportunities. It gives other people a chance to grow. It allows other people to have new challenges and feel a sense of accomplishment. And then at the end of the day, financially, hopefully it creates an environment where that you can be generous and help others. So outside of, being competitive, that certainly is the thing that drives me. And of course, and you and I share this, and this could be a whole nother podcast, but we're
creating podcast after podcast here. I love it.
Could be. Now that I started talking, I kind of like it.
Kaylee's gonna love it.
You gave me a microphone. You let me talk. This isn't bad.
That was your choice. No, but obviously, then how your relationship with your family as you're doing this is also something that I think about every hour of the day. How are you being the best husband you can be, the best father? How are you creating an environment for your family to flourish in? And so you have faith in family and finances. There it is. There's your podcast. Congratulations. But those are the things that motivate me to get up out of bed every morning and try to feel like I'm, shot out of a cannon.
I want to pose one more question, and this question's for all of us. So Carly, I want your response to this too. All of us on this podcast are entrepreneurs, business owners. We have a lot of other commonalities. And so not just from a business perspective, but just from a life perspective, when it comes to, like I tried to allude to at the beginning of the podcast, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, learning from other people about how they live their life in a meaningful way can be translated into anything that it is that you're doing. Just being able to find that meaning in things that, one, make you tick, but two, to Derek's point, provide value beyond yourself. Where you're going to feel the most fulfilled in life is when you're doing things that are fulfilling to other people and giving back to them. And so as successful entrepreneurs, family people, you're all busy. What is one piece of advice you would give to the listeners as they're seeking out this, something we all seek? I wouldn't call it happiness. I'd call it joy. Like, how do you truly find joy? And as a busy person, as an entrepreneur, when you're looking at values in your life, one piece of advice you would give. And I'll start with you, Carly. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay. I think for me, it's finding moments to slow down, because being an entrepreneur is really fast paced and there's a lot going on. And so building in time that gives me like quiet time, time to reflect. You know, I also am a person of faith. And so having some space to pray and meditate and read and have, like, it's really easy to fill your day as an entrepreneur. And I feel like the to-do list never goes away. And so being really intentional to make time to reset, because otherwise you'll just burn out. So I think that's really important. And I feel like a lot of my entrepreneur journey has been trying to manage that. I'm competitive also, and I want to be successful and can strive, and also want to manage not like crashing and burning and not being there for my family. So yeah, carving out that space.
That's a great answer. I would offer some thoughts that maybe complement that. I think you're spot on around being intentional. And so what you said is, I think, really important when it comes to family, because as business owners, entrepreneurs, like, even scatterbrains like Brad and I still plan our day a lot. We got our calendar, we got meetings lined up. We're almost on time most of the time. And then I feel like it's our families, although we care substantially about them and they're actually a higher priority than the business, it's very easy to just kind of let that life happen. Just whatever happened. Well, what are we doing tonight? I don't know. Well, you'd never say that for a Thursday morning meeting. You know, what are we doing? Because you're intentional about that. So my advice would be to be intentional with the time that you spend with your family. Like, design that. Focus on your kids. What are they thinking about? What motivates them? Just the same way you would talk to an employee, like, help them develop themselves. How are you feeding into your wife? How are you making sure that she is set up in a way where she can flourish? And if you can be intentional with that, then your results are going to be a lot better. You see a lot of these business owners have wild success in business and then have wild fires in their family life. And it's because of what they were intentional about. So intentionality around that, I think, is really important. So nice work, Carly.
I love it. I'll continue to build on it. So we've got being intentional about your own quiet time, reflection time, being intentional about everything outside, not just your business, but home life as well. And then I would add to that, making sure that inside of that intentionality, that you're using your skill sets, your time, energy, talents, and things that you have for the purpose of others and not for self. I think that the most successful people in life, and success is definitely not solely defined or even mostly defined by your net worth. It can be defined and should be defined in a lot of other ways as well, are the people that are looking outward and not inward, trying to find ways to use the gifts that they have for those around them. So being intentional with your time for yourself, being intentional with your time with your family, but also being intentional with the skill sets that you have. And so whether you're that entrepreneur and trying to be intentional of helping the people around you and lift other people up, or you're the retiree that's trying to find a purpose, essentially, like Derek was talking about, when people retire, sometimes their whole purpose was, or values were wrapped up in their careers, is that outward posture. And so building a value-based life, and then creating that vision. So it's funny that we keep using the word intentionality, because I started the podcast by saying helping create vision. And a lot of that, this full circle, ties back into being intentional. You can't be a vision-based person unless there's intentionality wrapped around it. And so thanks for making the wrap up of this podcast super simple. I appreciate that, because you brought a full circle for me. I didn't have to connect a bunch of dots.
Well, thanks for having me. And we only went 20 minutes longer than we were supposed to, so it's awesome.
Well, and the good news is we created 17 other podcast episodes in the middle of this podcast episode.
Yeah, a lot more content coming your way, folks.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a couple people that are happy about that.
Yeah. Your dad and who?
I should at some point say the word Doug Gotto on this podcast because I get texts from him about every episode. If I give him a shout out, he might actually be pretty happy. So we'll see if he makes it to the end of this podcast episode because I use his name at the very end.
Well, now that I know you do video, why wouldn't we have him on for a guest backflip appearance sometime?
If having you on this podcast creates 17 additional episodes, having my dad on it's going to create 4 seasons. So I don't know. I guess if I'm running short on content, that's exactly what we should do. But actually a really good follow-up. My dad is one of the people that has been very, very intentional in creating a vision for his life beyond just a job and a paid career. And so see, you're creating all kinds of content for me live and on air, and you all got to listen to it. That being said, hopefully listeners, this was a motivational episode for you. Cause at the end of the day, all of us always seek purpose in life. And a lot of that purpose comes from creating a vision, being intentional about that vision. And it's not just to Derek's point about your calendar during the day and during work, but 24 hours a day with your community, with your family, with the people that you love. And so whether it's in business or it's in life in general, being a vision-based person is very important. And honestly, Derek, I mean this I know that I'm sarcastic with you all the time, but in all sincerity, one of the most motivating people I've ever spent time with because of that intentionality. We'll be hanging out in situations where I just want to kind of shut my brain down and be a friend. And you're just like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we going to do that? What are we going to do next? What purpose is there behind this? And sometimes I just want to tell you to be like, knock it off. Like, seriously, let's just take a break for a second. But you only do that 2 days a year, and it's Thursday, Friday of March Madness. And that's coming up soon. So I look forward to getting you for at least a couple of days where you're not trying to create vision and intentionality.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I have a great deal of respect for everything that is going on at Fiat. You guys have your own very special story. Both you and Carly play important roles in that. And so I really am, like I said earlier, honored to be a part of this. It's fun to watch that, and it's motivating. You surround yourself by people who are making things happen, and you're going to want to do that yourself. So thank you for having me. Is this the time when we thank the sponsors?
Yeah. All these big sponsors that we have. Carly, as always, thanks for being here and being my co-host. Derek, thanks for being the guest today. Listeners, if this is your first ever episode of Retirement Redefined, I would encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so that you know when we release new episodes. And if you want any more information about Fiat or what we're doing here over at Fiat Wealth Management, I'd encourage you to head out to the website. It's fiatwm.com, fiatwm.com. We're big on education, and on the website, not only are you going to find every podcast episode we've ever recorded, but all the other education that we put out. Education is the most powerful tool in life. And so let's be part of that journey for you. Thanks for joining us for this episode, and we'll see all of you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Fiat Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.